Okay, welcome everyone. So now we're going to do a video about leadership. So I'd love to hear from you, Michelle. What do you think about leadership? How can we practice leadership?
Yeah, so I think that leadership it's an organic and natural process that happens as we follow our spiritual path, which is something we talked about in the empowerment video. But I think that one of the things about leadership that we can do and that I think is not necessarily a bad thing, I think it's a good thing, which is where we can just take a look at people that are leaders and we can just kind of compare and contrast, right? And it's this process of self-sculpting where we kind of figure out who we are as a leader by taking a look at what's out there and deciding kind of what's right for us from that and what isn't right for us. And whether that's leaders that maybe don't have the highest level of ethical and moral behavior, or leaders that are doing things right and that you want to role model yourself after and emulate and admire. And as you move along the path, who those people are might shift, they might change. You may find yourself admiring different qualities in different people as part of your own personal growth and personal development. And just to kind of harken back, I think, to some of the other content, it's that you're actually in this deeper, greater process of remembering who you are as a leader, and that these people, these other beings of light that are coming to you, that are revealing either the positive side of that or the negative side of that, are just revealing aspects of you. And as you remember and restore all of these pieces of yourself and aspects of yourself, this is building your own leadership template of who you are as a leader and how you guide and how you direct others.
That's really good advice. I know sometimes I've learned the most from the leaders who I don't want to be like, right? So I've had different people who were a mentor of mine, and then I figured out that I didn't want to be like them, and then I made a clear decision to not do that anymore, which was a good decision for me because I was too much like them, but they showed me how to not do it, right? They showed me why not to do it. So I love this advice. This is deep advice of like finding the leaders, the ones who you admire, the ones who you don't want to be like, integrating it into like, okay, how can I figure out how to lead using this as my example? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And that we're actually remembering the truth of who we are as leaders in that process, and that you get to write the story, your leadership story of how you lead yourself and others, and that process is not only transformative, but it also can be fun.
Beautiful. So when I think about leadership, I always think about conscious leadership. I think about compassionate leadership, and also, in my opinion, in my experience, the way I am, my leadership comes from service. It's a service-oriented mind, and leadership is like a tool that you pick up from the place of service, right? So everyone does it a little bit differently. Some people want to be a leader even if they're not trying to be of service. That doesn't usually work, right? The leaders
temporarily.
Temporarily, it could look like it's working. It could get you something, right? But like a real leader feels like they're the servant, right? People, even like contemporary thought leaders will tell you when they talk to like entrepreneurs and company owners and other leaders, they'll say like, if you're like the boss, you should be asking your employee, you should think that you work for them. Right? You think that you work for your team, or for your employees, or for your clients, right? We always need to be of service to somebody else if we want it to be an aligned action, right? And so, not that there's not any way of being of service to yourself and have it be aligned. Okay, that could be true, but in case of like leadership, interacting with others, we want it to be an expression of service. And the way that I think of it is that, I like to break it down to a very simple example. If I was leading a group of people from one city to another on foot, let's just say I come up with this analogy when I think of like zombie apocalypse movies, okay? So there's a zombie apocalypse and there's like chaos, right? And there's only a certain number of people left in the world, and like lots of things are shut down, and you're in a city and it's clear that you and a group of people need to go to the next city let's just say it's like 40 miles away or something like that, okay? Now, who should lead the group? Because here's the truth, is a group without a leader is a group in chaos. Because what happens is everyone tries to become the leader. Everyone vies to be the leader. There's just like a competition for that role of leadership, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable unless someone's leading. They want someone to lead, and they're like, if no one else is leading, I'll do it. But the truth is, whoever's most qualified to lead should lead. That's the truth. If it's going to be, the best scenario, the most qualified person takes the lead, and then the group is the most safe, right? So at some point, if you realize that based on your own experience and your intuition and your guidance and your wisdom and your toolkit and whatever, your disposition, if you are the most qualified person to lead the group, you should lead the group, and you should not back down from that role. Sometimes we want to avoid the role of leader because we're too humble, and Michelle would say too humble to function.
It's one
right?
of my phrases.
And this is us not stepping up. It's like shrinking down, playing small. And the question is, what's the most beneficial? Who's the most beneficial person to lead? And I know this from leading classrooms of kids. Cesar Millan would teach this with dogs. You can find this in the wild with monkeys. Like, there needs to be someone leading, or else it's chaos, because the group will then fight for that role. But if one person can lead, everybody else falls in line. The whole class falls in line with a strong leader. All the monkeys fall in line if there's a clear leader, right? The dogs fall in line if the owners step up as the leader. And it's the same with you and the people around you. People are in chaos, they're confused, they don't know what to do, they're following different paths that are not the highest way. They're trying to walk to the other city, but they're going in circles, or they're just like about to go into like a trap. Like, this is the state that we're in. But with a strong leader, people will fall in line, and you can guide people to the right place. You can maintain order, and sanity and calmness. You can maintain harmony, okay? So the main point I'm trying to make is, if you are the most qualified to lead, if you're the most conscious one, essentially, it is your duty to lead. It's not something that you should shy away from. And you don't need to lead for the sake of leading. It's simply for the sake of serving. It's like, well, the group would be better off if I lead than if someone else leads, or if nobody leads. And therefore, out of kindness to the group, out of compassion for them, I will put aside my own, thoughts of hesitation, and I'm just going to do it. I'm going to accept that responsibility. I'm going to hold that power. Yeah, it's more work than it would be to follow. True, but the rewards are greater, and also you can help people. So this is the way that I think about leadership, and the way that I've been able to do this for myself to whatever degree is by becoming more conscious and becoming, a spiritual person with actual spiritual intentions and views, and essentially just higher states of consciousness. And as I do this, I find that I'm more qualified to lead than the people around me in many cases. Like, I walk out on the street, and the people around me are not as conscious in most cases, and so should I be swayed by them, or should I try to have them swayed by me? Obviously, I should try to get them to do something rather than me doing what they want, because I have better, ideals. I have better goals. Like, whatever I lead them into will be positive and beneficial, and what other people might lead me into is like drugs, or like something like fast food, or you know what I'm trying to say, right? So that's what I believe about leadership. It's a service-oriented mind, and consciousness is the key to becoming qualified. And as you become more conscious and compassionate, you will find that you become called into that role of leadership more often. And I'm encouraging you to step in and not be scared, because it is the only real way to be of service at some point.
Yeah, I think these are really powerful points, and I'll just share a couple personal stories, which is that this is something that I really had to work through quite a bit personally. Feeling that call, feeling called to lead in my own unique way, and not wanting to, resisting it. And I'm saying this because I know that if you're watching this and you're connecting to us, that there might be a resonance with that. And it's natural, right? There could be sacrifices that come from stepping up as a leader, you can take arrows from people, right? You can receive reputation defamation, right? There's all sorts of risks that can come from stepping up as a leader right now, given the current spiritual and economic and political climate. But I think that when it comes down to it, right, when you go to put your head on your pillow at night, you can rest comfortably knowing that you rose and that you stepped up into what you came here to do and that you answered the call, versus laying your head on your pillow at night knowing that you're going to be coming back in another lifetime to do this because you didn't do it this one.
Beautiful point. Scary. That's scary. You should be frightened.
It's the truth.
If you don't, yeah. That's a really good point. So, yeah, I love what you said. Yeah, people take the shots at a leader. Being a leader isn't the safest spot sometimes, right? You're literally doing it for others.
Yeah.
I think about monkeys in a group, in a whole group of monkeys. The ones who are like second in command or third, their position is safer actually. People aren't trying to take shots at them. Everyone takes a shot at the alpha, right? To try to dethrone them. That they have to be more alert because somebody might try to dethrone them at some point. And so you should know that as a leader, that may happen to you, and that essentially it's worth it. Now, but this explains to me why it's not important to be a leader just for the sake of being a leader, right? You don't need to try to be a leader or try to be in command or alpha just for the sake of it, because it does call attention to yourself, and you may be able to get to where you want to go pretty comfortably, second place, third place, and just kind of you can stay off the radar sometimes. That's a good strategy sometimes. But when the situation calls for it and when other people need you to, then you should step up as a leader to whatever capacity you can, because the world needs that. And as I said, at some point, this is the only way to help people. This is how to be a guide, is you're being a leader, either leading by example or you're leading through word, or obviously both is really what you want.
Through action.
Yeah, through action. By example. So everyone can lead by example right now. We can always, as far as helping the world to become more conscious, we can start leading by example now. And here's the cool part is, as you do this, people will start to ask you what you're doing, and they're going to start to be interested in how can I be more like you, and then you can teach them, you can guide and lead through your speech, right? A lot of us try to lead through our speech before we lead through example, and people don't care what we think unless they admire us. So and showing a good example is the way to create admiration in the people around you. It doesn't always work, but it definitely works. So that's just a quick point is lead by example now. Some people will notice you, and then you can lead them through your speech. And in terms of leading a whole group, it's all about integrity. It's all about understanding this is what they need. This is what they need, and so therefore I will. Therefore I'll do it. And then you do it, and you don't get swayed just because one person challenges you. You understand actually, they're wrong, and this is what they all need. And you can do that. You don't have to agree with everybody. You can understand some people are not right, and you can not let their opinion or perspective or action hurt the whole group. So you this is what I do when I lead groups, for example, in a group class or meditation or a Zoom call. I just told this the other day to somebody who has less experience leading groups. I'm I'll mute people, I shut people down immediately. If somebody's not helping the whole group, I silence them as soon as I can, because I'm protecting the group. As a leader, that's my job, is to protect and guide the whole group, even at the expense of individuals in the group, if that makes sense. The group harmony and consciousness is more important than any one person, and if somebody's not in alignment, then we don't let them continue until they fall back in line. Okay, so this is how I think about groups. And yeah, I'm a Pisces, I'm not naturally disposed to trying to like take charge. I'm disposed to like going with the flow. But out of integrity, and because I've recognized, my own consciousness, I will take that role of a leader to help people, and so I think it's good that everybody tries to do the same.
I think it's really important. I love everything you're saying, and I think it's so important to recognize that there's really no other way for higher frequency consciousness to be distributed on the planet at this time outside of leadership. That leadership is the primary vehicle that consciousness and higher frequency, a higher way of being, living, and doing is distributed through the planet. And I know that a lot of us spend time, speaking of balancing masculine and feminine energies, meditating, taking time in that feminine to rest and to heal and to remember yourself and to find yourself. But there comes a time to stop hiding. And there comes a time to walk out of the crystal cave and to begin to really be courageous enough to actually make an impact in the world, and to show up and to be willing to speak up about what's true for you, the experiences that you've had, and to be willing to direct the energy flow in your life and in your reality in alignment with the highest frequency that you have awareness and of access to. Because when we can mobilize hundreds, thousands, millions of people doing that every day in their microscopic actions, this planet will be changed. There's no question about it, right? And so just giving yourself permission, where can you lead a little bit more? Where can you step up in your life a little bit more? Where can you say no to unconsciousness showing up in your life, coming toward you a little bit more? Who's that person that you need to draw a boundary with, right? Which is leadership. It's leadership to say, not in my life and not in my reality, right? That's leadership. So what's one thing that you can do in order to lead just a little bit more clearly and with a little bit more certainty?
I love that. I was getting, when you were talking, it's almost like consciousness in action.
Correct.
Would you say you've attained some level of consciousness in the crystal cave, and now it's time to put it into action. Why? Because other people are important too. And as you said, we need to distribute this consciousness or else it just dies with us. And how is that beneficial? Right? Put it on my tombstone. I died with gifts and consciousness that I never shared with others. I didn't take the time to figure out how to influence and impact others.
And there can be skills to this, right? Like, it's not necessarily the easiest thing when, right, integrating our consciousness fully into our masculine aspect, where our action is fully aligned, leading others in a really specific way, in a specific direction, right? There's skill to learn. There's skill, like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
Trial and error.
Yes.
That's where the patience comes in.
Yeah.
The patience that I told you about earlier, this is highly related to what we talked about, balancing masculine and feminine. As Michelle is saying, like, the feminine side is like, I'm gonna go in. The masculine side is, okay, what can I come out with? What can I express out? And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's not going to be perfect. Yes, you're going to mess up. Yes, you're going to feel I'm not quite as pure when I take action that I am when I'm sitting down. Okay, fine, true. And that's where, because of the discomfort, that's where patience comes in. Patience allows you to move through that. And it's just practicing, expressing your consciousness both in action and in speech. That's what a leader is.
Yeah, the truth is you're not as pure when you step into action, right? The truth is that it requires the utmost level of mindfulness and care in order to hold and stabilize your action at a new level of frequency every time that you up level, right? But this is part of the integration process and having balanced masculine and feminine energies. And if you're not taking the correct and aligned actions aligned to the frequency that you've embodied in your feminine, then you're not fully integrated. And this is a big gap, I think, for a lot of people in terms of stepping into leadership, is this lack of integration. And it's on both sides. It's psychological, emotional integration, but then it's integrated action, which is leadership.
Yes, and it's that masculine side. So yeah, there's this Zen analogy of like you go up the mountain, you attain the realizations and experience, and then you come back down the mountain into the marketplace, into the village, into the world, and you share what you've learned. And so, as Michelle is saying, we retreat inwards, we go to the crystal cave, we get to our feminine, we get something cool, we get some consciousness. The process is never done, but at some point we're like, okay, time to come back down the mountain, to share what I've got, and to be a guide. Being a leader and being a guide are almost the same thing, right? And there are skills that we have to learn, but it's worth it. It's worth it to learn it, and it's worth it to share it. And yeah, my meditation teacher said that practicing mindful speech is harder than practicing silence. So think of it like that as an analogy. You know, being quiet completely, relatively easy. You just do it and you learn to watch your mind. Wonderful. Learning how to be mindful about what you say takes even more care, because now it's like presence in action, right? You're having a level of awareness and consciousness, but it's in action. You're in the moment, discerning what to say, what to do. You're controlling what you say, what you don't say. You have that mindfulness, you have consciousness. You're always doing it to be of service. That's an example of how coming back down the mountain, learning to express your leadership in action and words is actually your next challenge. It's not to be avoided. And the whole crystal cave thing, trust me, it's not as evolved as you think it is. It's not. It's the step that has to happen first, and then comes the next one, which is now I'm going to become a guide. Now I'm going to become a leader. Now I'm going to be an embodied, soul where I can help other people to come into alignment with the same thing. This is what the world needs. It doesn't need another meditator necessarily. Yes, it's good, but better is, how can you awaken 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people? That's your life. That's what you need your life to be. Only a leader can do that. Only a guide can do that. My founder of my tradition said he'd rather that one of his students become a spiritual guide than 1,000 become enlightened. Why? Because a spiritual guide affects the whole world. 1,000 people that become enlightened, yes, it's good, but a spiritual guide is the one out there with their feet on the ground, making connections with people, creating that karma, planting those seeds, leading people to enlightenment, maybe not now, maybe in future lives, where the connections are made now. So think of yourself like this. It is the highest service that you can provide. And even though it's uncomfortable, you must practice. You must get used to your masculine side. You have to be willing to try. Trust me, if you're watching this video, you have something special. This is not an accident. You have something special in you. We believe in you. We may never have met you, but we believe in you, because you wouldn't have made it all the way to this video if not, right? You have something special, and trust me, you can learn to share it in a way that impacts people, and you can learn to benefit people more, and you can rise as a true leader. So leadership, it's actually not just spiritual too. It's also about business, right? Someone who's self-employed, like a healer or coach, if you're self-employed, you have to be a self-leader. You need self-leadership for that, right? If you're going to be, an entrepreneur, you need to be an actual leader. You need to be a leader, creating companies, creating teams. Like, you're a leader, you're selling, you're leading people, you're getting clients. This is different than just, doing the work. Anyone can be hired as a Reiki teacher. I could hire you as a Reiki teacher or healer, put you in my program, get you the clients, you can do your work. That's easy. That's easy to do. Try rising to the level where you can be self-employed. Try rising to the level where you can be the entrepreneur, getting people, organizing teams. That's higher level. And if you want to continue and grow your business and maybe work with us at a higher level, this is a step that you must do. You must decide to rise as a leader and become an embodied in action. You must allow your consciousness to be embodied in action, in speech, all day. That's what you actually need. That's actually all you need to become a leader is a good heart and high levels of consciousness that you can keep with you while you're in action, while you're talking. Then that's really a leader, isn't it? As long as you have a service-oriented mind, that's it. That's all you need. So I know you can do it. I really encourage you. Please take the steps to practice to do this, and I know you'll get better each and every day that you try. Michelle, are there any other points that you want to raise before we wind up?
Yeah, just giving yourself permission to fully activate and awaken the leader within you, and give yourself permission to fully accept the calling of leadership that you have, that's been placed on your heart for your good, to benefit others. And just if there's any aspect of you that is questioning about stepping up as a leader, may this be your cosmic permission slip to finally step up and do this thing.
Yay! Wonderful. All right, with that, we'll see you in the next video, and please practice what you just learned and help other people to do the same.